Good evening, and welcome to this edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me is co-host Dennis Brown, and we do have two of the commentators that we promised this evening in Alan Douglas and Randall Smith. Uh, for you, Dennis, these guys are the eyes and voices of not just Cup Match, but of Eastern County as well, bringing the people that cannot get to the game for whatever reasons, the action through their voices. Um, Tonight we have, like we said, Randall Smith and Alan Douglas. What are you hoping to hear, or what are some of the things you want to hear from these guys regarding the 2022 Eastern County Cup Series as well as the Cup Match Classic?
Yes. Yeah. Good night, everybody. I really would like to hear because I really respect these guys' point of view when it comes to cricket and its discipline and what's required to play at a high level. And I was unfortunately I wasn't able to get to cup match because of COVID and stuff like that. But one of the things that really excite me when I hear these guys is their passion for the game, what they bring, not just as commentators, but as former players and former players who performed at the highest levels. Like so, that I always look forward to hearing these guys' opinions on different things. So I'm looking forward to tonight because I have some questions on some things about cup match and also about what made Bayless Bay so successful in wresting the cup from St. David's over the weekend as well.
Sure. One of the things I know, both of these gentlemen that are here with us tonight, and we are waiting, hopefully, Alan Richardson. One of the things I know these guys done was a lot of homework when they were players. What tonight we want to hear is about the homework they've done in preparation
You're right.
to greet players and understand what shot selections like, what bowling is like, what all that type of stuff as a commentator. Because you remember, as somebody that plays, you're concentrating on your playing aspect. But when you're in the bringing the game to people, it's a lot more that you have to be involved in, and it's a lot of homework. So let me start with you, Wendell. As a player, everybody knows your background of how you used to prepare to play even the most simplest of league games. So as you're getting into the broadcast side, well, how do you prepare for um, not just Eastern County but Cup Match as well?
Thank you, Earl. Thank you, Dennis, and good evening to our listeners. The preparation for commentary this year, particularly for the Eastern County, I actually got up around 5:30, and I have a book that I read a few years ago that I have actually close by, and I was looking through it. It's by Richie Beno, who's someone who I really
Yeah.
admired tremendously as a commentator. I used to love listening to him come on Test match cricket, and I was doing a bit of reading. He had a page, in fact, about tips for commentators. And when I was down there, I remember Butchie was there, and he's been new to it. And was sharing one of the pages he had about tips to aspiring commentators. And there's another page about leadership. So I was looking at that. But some things that I did this year a little differently was the week before Eastern County, actually, I called my brother Clay and said, listen, I want you to come down to St. David's with me. And we're going to go measure the different distances from the boundary from the popping crease. Because I one of the things that I admire about overseas commentary is the fact that when a ball goes over the boundary, they can tell you the distance that it traveled. So I was curious to see what the dimensions were down at St. David's. So we took one of those long tape measures and measured from exactly where the batsman would bat at each end, and then had the different amounts of meters for the respective sight screens, long on, long off, cow corner, square. So I can remember off the top of my head, like the square boundaries from the clubhouse end were like 56 meters. And so I remember when someone hit a boundary over Cow Corner, and I had that there, and I was able to, even if I'm not commentating, I might point to it. So a co-commentator could say, oh, that went 70 meters. Because I was always very curious to see just how spacious St. David's is, because as you know, we have a lot of very narrow fields in Bermuda, particularly Devon, Chirac, Ranges, even St. George's on the side. And so things like that, I think the spectators would appreciate knowing that people have done their homework as far as the distance that a ball is traveled. The other thing besides, reading and doing that is I listen to a lot of other commentators. I really enjoy listening to people like Ian Bishop and Michael Atherton and Nasser Hussain, and they come up with terms like, I know Nasser says, oh, this team's batting is in disarray. And I heard a term this past week that I hadn't heard before, and that was the fielding team being very sprightly. And St. David's and Bayless Bay particularly too, you could see they were both very eager to win, and their fielders for the most part tried to back up their bowlers, and they brought that energy to the field. So I think that's what I would say as far as the commentators listening to new terms. My mate Alan Douglas, he's had one that I've never heard until this year, and he talks about the spinners and the turn they're getting. I'll let him tell you what he calls it when they're getting a lot of turn. It's something an economist might use, actually. So I see him.
His wicket keep. They don't get turned. It's just I got to move to the ball. So Alan,
yes.
Let me ask you about preparation for the 2022 series. I mean, County Cup and Cup match. What were you doing to prepare yourself, knowing that you was going to be part of a broadcast to bring it to people?
Hey, I'm telling you, it's a lot of work. Trust me, a lot of work. One thing that Randall's a person that when he played, Randall will work 10 times harder than me, running up the causeway with these flat suits and hitting thousands of balls. I must admit, Randall worked hard. I worked at it. I ain't worked nowhere as near as Randall, Charlie, and them guys. I think I was blessed with a physique that I can get up and just run. I could move, I can jump. So Randall went down to that field and measured everything, right? So he's running that wheel, measuring wheel from the popping crease all the way to the boundary. I'm a bit lazy. I have Google Earth on my computer at the job, right? So I use Google Earth, right? And I can get the exact measurement. I'm not doing that hard work. But that just shows you that what length and breadth you have to go through to prepare for a match. You hear guys talk about they used to hit up to the pilot station. I said, you kidding me? Let me measure that. And I ain't got my book in front of me, but it's 100 and so many, a lot of meters. That's a great hit, as you'll probably say, by them St. David's Islands. Then guys used to hit the ball down Red Hill. I think, Wendell, myself, he can hit it near Red Hill, but that's also a long hit. But that's the type of preparation you go into, because remember, we have to tell a story. We have to prepare the listeners to listen to what's going on out there, but we have to set the stage, set the drama, right? So to that end, what I did for the off season, I did a course, on a commentary course with it's an Indian guy. I did it through, but Gavin Scoville, who runs all the broadcasts for ICC, was one of the major lecturers, and guys know Danny Morrison and Ian Bishop and Harshal Bogo. These guys were all part and parcel of this training process. They have little clips in here and there and everything like that. So, talking to Danny Morrison, it was like, wow, you hear this guy on TV and you see him and it's just full of energy, full of life. It's like, man, I can't do all of that, but it requires a lot of homework and a lot of background work. For example, it's researching the history. And one thing that I learned this year is that people want to hear about the youngsters coming along. For example, for Cup match for St. George's, who was this guy, Jordan Burgess? So you got to go back and you got to call Jordan and call the father and talk to the grandfather and research, what school he went and what's he doing in life. Because why? People want to hear that, particularly that, for instance, and one of the mistakes I was making early in my broadcasting career is I call people by the nickname. I call Justin Pitcher from St. David's Putter, but that wasn't his name, really. I might know him as Putter, but his parents and grandparents and godmothers don't know him as Putter. They know him as Justin Pitcher. So you have to learn the names, and trust me, Randall will tell you, the amount of people that will text you and hollow out, his name's so-and-so Jr., so-and-so the second, or this. You got to get it right. Like this week, we got little boy Robinson's name. We look at it, and we're calling it something, but it's Saki, So those are the things that you've got to take. It is a lot of background work for this preparation, and even the fact that how you project your voice, how it's important. That I love the fact that I have a break. We guys will do 3 or 4 over stints. I love the fact that I have a break because I go back, I record. I would even take some video footage of players bowling, and so when I come back on, I could say, and particularly I was able to work out how Chris Douglas was hitting the ball and how his foot was moving. I could explain the boy Jordan Burgess again, how his feet collapses, his front foot collapses badly, and his back foot collapses, versus the boy Walker, who's beautifully straight. And so that you're able to tell the story of how one's going to be faster and less injury prone than the other. So it requires a lot of work.
Yeah. Before I get to Dennis, let me just give you guys a little tip. What you can do is actually take a recorder and go to each player and ask them to say his name. So then you can play it back over and over.
Good point.
And then you now can pronounce his name very correctly when you're ready.
Well done.
But Dennis, let me jump to you. I know you got a question for these guys, and I know you're gonna smile because the guys around you are all representing the East End, and of course, I see the smile growing. See the smile growing, guys?
Look how the Lord works. Look how the Lord works. Okay. So let's go to Cop Match before we go to Conti, because so looking at the first day, like the conditions on day 1, overcast, was light rain the night before, light rain that morning. Do you guys think that St. George's made the correct decision? And what's your guys' opinion on the decision that St. George's made?
We'll start with you, Dougie.
Well, it didn't matter really that greatly whether you batted or bowled first. I think. I mean, it does matter, but when you're going for the cup, there's so much more variables and so much more risk you got to take. So I understood St. George's ploy by going in and trying to get runs on the board, right? It makes sense. Bayless Bay did it, worked out, got runs on the board, because runs on the board puts pressure on everybody. So go ahead, get your runs on the board. It's the method that I think the players take to get the runs on the board, because I've watched them for the last 2 years, and I've known Clay and worked around Clay, and I believe guys get out there, do their thing, man. It is their day. And I think, let's imagine a guy like Clay or Wendell. These guys will build their innings. These guys will look at the amount of overs that's got to be that day, and they will build that innings. They will take 1 hour out of the game to get themselves set and go build that innings. I think St. George's will improve on that. They'll need to improve on that next year. Build that innings, because it's a heck of a lot of time. And so, I think, but it's the players. They're out there. They get nervous. It's a whole lot of things run through their mind. But it's just a process to get that process right, and it will come. It will come in time. Trust me.
Sure. Randall?
I was very pleased, in fact, that St. George's won the toss and elected. Sorry for the background phone
No,
ring.
good.
The fact that St. George's won the toss and elected to bat, because one of the things that Alan said is runs on the board creates pressure. And when I was over in Ireland with Gus Logie, I noticed that he tended to favor batting first. But what I realized in Bermuda that makes it more significant is the fact that we have some very hot weather here. And I can remember a cup match up at Somerset the year that St. George's really got hammered. I think it was a 2-1. On the morning that we did the pre-match show, around 8:15, it was steaming hot, and I thought, my gracious, how are these guys going to manage fielding out for 4 hours plus? Because you're talking about 10 o'clock till lunch, and then after lunch usually, because very seldom are you going to bowl an entire team out before lunch, and it was sweltering. And I thought, wow. And the thing that I also realized from this Eastern County is that when Willis Still told me before County, and he asked me, please don't say anything about it before the toss, that no team has batted second and won a single game at St. David's for the whole season. And I started to think, why might that be? And two things came to mind. One, the fatigue factor for the team that's batted first. And two, the fact that if the team batting first does their job and bats properly, it's called scoreboard pressure. If you're looking at 240 plus, and I can remember St. David's, I couldn't believe it. They played County, they batted first. The next day they won the toss and sent St. George's in league. We scored like 320. So when you're going to the field, having been running around chasing leather for all that time, and right, so you're talking about, even if it's a 50-over game and you're batted the whole 50 overs, you've got the fatigue factor, the stamina factor, and then you got the frustration, because obviously some players are going to be upset with other people because they've dropped catches or misfelt or whatever, and then they got to turn around and go right back in. And very few players today, I think, do what some of and I hear stories about Dion stuff. He goes to the gym with Kenny Thompson, etc. And those types of things are a must, because if you're an early order bat, opening bat 1 or 2, batting, first wicket or second wicket down, and you've got to go right back in. You have to be fit, because you don't want that sun to have impacted you. So Alan was right. I used to run the Causeway or run through St. George's Town all the time, just so I could be as fit as I possibly could be. But I thought, Dennis, that we did the right thing. What Alan hit the nail on the head when he said it's the method. For one, we took a huge gamble. Alan Douglas Jr. had a fantastic season last year opening batting, and he likes the ball coming on. And we knew that he might get on, he might not. And if he doesn't, we can try him back in his regular position in the second innings. And of course, it didn't work. And Clay was bold enough to realize, listen, I can shoulder the criticism if it doesn't work, right? And I thought about this Eastern County just gone. The person that I asked, I won't call his name because he wouldn't appreciate me saying it, but someone who seems quite astute at cricket, who would you have open batted? And the person told me Rodney Trott. But there's no guarantee that even the person you selected, because Rodney Trott is a very, very good batsman, very calm, patient, but he got out the first over too, because with the new ball, all it takes is the ball to swing a little bit, you've got an edge and you're out. So that gamble backfired. But we lost that match when we were 70 for 2 and then 80 for about 5 within the space of a half an hour. And you're talking about your skipper, and then your key batsman, the person who I think was going to be the glue to our team, the same person who I thought was going to be the glue to St. David's innings. And I think you know who I'm talking about, O.J. Pitcher, right? Yeah. O.J. went early on Saturday. I said to myself, well, if they get Chris Douglas before 100, because you're talking about 218, you're going to rely on your middle order and primarily your bowlers, and people cannot point fingers at, and I'm sure you would agree, at Seth Campbell and C.J. Otterbury Watch O'Brien and say, "Oh, why didn't you try to bat out that?" And it's you pick batsmen to make runs and bowlers to get wickets.
Exactly.
If the bowlers get you some runs, it's a bonus. That's how I look at it.
Exactly. No, batsman bat, bowlers bowl.
Right. I was happy with what St. George did. I thought we went about it too quick. OJ seemed a bit more impatient because I guess he figured with Allen having gone early, he's going to have to push the paddle a bit. But the truth is, when you start looking at how long cup match is, it's almost like a 3-day test because of the amount of hours.
2 hours short. It's 2 hours short of a 3-day test.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's right.
Correct. So our guys need to buckle down. And the one thing I will say that Somerset have had way different from St. George's in most of the years, we have very seldom had somebody go all the way. Like Treddy this year batted well. He was on 66, and then he got bowled by a spinner. Very seldom do you notice top batsmen in the middle of their innings getting out, playing a defensive shot, clean bowl. But they had Dion Stubble this year. Last year down St. George's, it was Chris Douglas, Centurions, and St. George's needs somebody. And to be honest, OJ Pitcher did have COVID the week before cup match, but he came training at Wellington Oval, and you could see the class in that guy. And the other person, our skipper, he was getting out of bed, making 8 o'clock sessions in the morning to prepare for cup match, doing some batting. But then he gets himself run out. And those are things as a coach you don't anticipate, a player getting run out. But the excitement of the moment obviously must have gotten to him because he challenged someone's arm with a stroke that he hit hard straight to the fielder. So you have to hope the guy missed the stumps. And so that's the big thing. And some of those you would put down to mental lapses rather than the physical.
Definitely.
And just another question.
We're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, then Dennis, you can ask us next question. We'll be right back.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome back. Dennis?
Okay, just looking at St. George's first innings. Okay, I understand why you bet it. I probably would have done the same thing. Got mine first. Randy Horton always said that. Get yours first. So it didn't pan out early. Lost a couple of early wickets. Could the approach have been, because I looked at a lot of the shot selection, which to me was iffy. Could their approach have been a little different just to back up a little bit, to reset, and then move on? Because one of the things Dougie said, and it alludes to, like, just to build your innings. Could they have reset just a little bit and then bend forward again? Or what are you guys' impressions on the approach on the first day? Because I thought the approach the first day and the second day were completely different.
You want to go?
Well, I think they did try to reset. It was just unfortunate that, Somerset were bad on the day on getting them out. Because you watch them go out there, it is a mindset of trying to reset and recalibrate. But, it's games about bat and ball. It's competing against each other, who can unsettle who, with field placement and Berlin strategy. So I think, yes, they tried to reset, but it just wasn't on. It was one of those days. You've got to give Somerset credit, and you cannot take it from Somerset. Somerset were a bit more focused, drilled, and managed to get the upper hand. And once they got the bit in the mouth, you got Dion at one end, Berlin, and you got the left arm spinner, Brangman. Then, it was tough. It was tough to reset. Again, it's the pressure situation out there. I'm sure they tried to reset. Somerset weren't letting up. The thing, if you're a striker and you're scoring goals regularly, you're going to keep pushing. You're not going to give nobody an even break. And that's what Somerset did. It didn't give them a chance to reset and recalibrate.
Mm-hmm. And they also took some good catches. I can remember Sabir took a beautiful running catch, low down off of the wicketkeeper, Sinclair Smith. And then, like you said, Dennis, there was some shots that perhaps should not have been played. Dion was just the same way Rodney Trupp bowled C.J. Outerbridge in the last delivery of Eastern County. We had Mackay Simmons who went pushing at an off drive that came back between the gate, and we had a few players who needed to be more patient. And to me, that's the most difficult part of coaching is you can show people about how to execute shots, but picking the right shot at the right time is so important. And that's what happens. Guys need to be. Well, I thought OJ and Rodney Trupp were very disciplined on day 2. They really tried to bat the ball. But again, the thing that makes cricket very difficult for batsmen is sometimes you're only allowed one mistake, because if people are well drilled and they're not giving you second chances, the momentum builds because you get a wicket. And we often say in cricket, you get one, you get two, or you get three. And sometimes you can get 4 quick wickets. It even happens in Test cricket where you see collapses that you don't really expect professionals to have. But Somerset have, and that's how it should be. When you've got somebody down, we say if you got your foot on someone's throat, keep it there. And that's what happens. I thought in the county game, what St. David's did try, because you saw Mackay Simmons was in for a little while with Chris, and Alan and I were looking at each other, and I said, Alan, in almost every game, there's a partnership that the fielding team has to just wait to get through. And once you get through that, it's funny how the wickets just seem to tumble in. And sure enough, that seemed to happen to St. David's once they got Mackay, because there comes Justin. He's out there, George. And of course, some people could question some of the dismissals. But to be honest, it's very, very difficult for umpires, especially with close runouts that are millimeters or centimeters, and they don't have the luxury of a replay to see, to judge. So you're going on, their natural eye. So I'm always hesitant to talk about that because of the fact that it is a split-second decision.
Yeah. We do have a question, and as former players, I would like for you guys to address it. Basically, it is given that we no longer play the longer version of the game and not having many trial matches, what is being done to prepare the players for the physicality of the challenge of cup match? Because it is, I mean, when you guys played, it was a big challenge. You guys put your bodies through a lot, and Now we've added more time to the match as opposed to when you guys were playing.
Well, you do need to do a bit of fitness work. The question from Norbert was a good question. One of the things I was thinking about, Randall, is that if possible, have more trial matches. And why I say trial matches? Because remember, trial matches are matches where you have to perform to get selected. So instead of having basically all the sessions where a guy will say, I showed up to training, I did my training, then they would expect to get selected. I think if we put on more trial matches, so the question is going to say, well, where are you going to fit them in? Well, there's nothing wrong with having a match in the evening where you've got one group of players, bowlers, so you want, and fielders, going at batsmen, and they have a target to get in a certain time. You start at 5:30, 5:45, and you go to dark 30. So I think more trial matches will certainly help the selection process and put more pressure on the batsman during the trials, so that when they get in the matches, they're a bit more accustomed to batting and bowling under pressure. But they would get more pressure as well in trying to pick themselves, instead of just showing up to training and thinking because they put the work in training, which is important. Another thing is that it's a matter of, because when you show up down there to St. George's or Somerset, I don't think it's Somerset or St. George's job to get you fit for cup match. They have their own teams, the club teams, to get ready. So if I'm showing up from Cleveland down there, I don't expect Clay to spend his time trying to do fitness with me to get ready for cup match. Go get that done yourself, right? So it's a matter of saying, maybe now, off season, here's this program for you, here's that program for you, but go get fit. But it's very difficult and there's not enough time for the coaches to be turning around, trying to teach you certain things, setting the strategy, getting you practicing that strategy for the match, and then trying to get you fit. So go get fit at your clubs, go get fit on your own, but there's plenty of time for you to go do that there. It's unfair to the coaches to be having to try to get you fit for cup match.
Sure.
Well,
Randall, before you respond, Dennis, last week we had on members of the Somerset Cricket Club coaching and management. And one of the things that the coach of Somerset indicated was that having trial matches was kind of watering it down because they couldn't get enough players to play. So what they reverted to was having very intense, strong training sessions that was mandatory to attend, and then have that final trial where they will have enough players to make it a competitive trial match, as opposed to trying to have these trial matches and not even being able to field two decent quality teams. So to each his own, but they figured out a way to get the maximum out of their players.
Did they figure that out, or was that just the fact that there aren't dates for trials?
No, there are dates for trials. In fact, last year, St. George's did have 3 trial matches. But exactly what you said, Earl, happened last year. We had 2 this year. We wanted to have 3, but we weren't able to because of the unavailability of one of our opponents who we wanted to have. But last year, we had 3 inter-club trials. And what we found is that obviously we had to invite a lot of outside players from various clubs, but with some people having to work on Saturdays and see Saturdays, Sundays, even at club level, some teams struggle to have a squad, just a decent 11, and so to have 22. Now this year, what was wonderful is we did have about 24 people training, and from a fitness standpoint, yes, we did invite someone from a gym down, and they were doing prior to the session about 25 minutes of fitness. But then what that does is, because obviously you want to get out on the middle while it's still light, you have to realize that you'd have to have extra sessions, and we did do that. We had cup match sessions weren't just on Wednesdays, where this year they were Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But again, if you've got Eastern County, the players from St. David's, you expect they're going to want to go to St. David's and train for Eastern County with their squad. If they're with Bayless Bay, well, fortunately this year Bayless Bay were after Cup match, so that didn't matter. But come next year when Bayless Bay plays St. David's, right ahead, see, I'm looking ahead. First match 2 weeks before County Cup, you know they're going to be at Bay and St. David's, because that is vitally important to those players, and we have to respect that. But from the to answer your question, there's lots of drills that you can do in cricket that are fitness related drills, and we do that. And you know how I could notice that? For instance, one simple drill we did is having guys running the crossways, taking a running catch from somebody, a coach at one spot, going another 20 meters, taking a second catch, going another 20 meters, taking a third catch, looping around, and then coming back, doing an on-down fit, and doing that cycle about 8 times. And you could see the guys who, some people came down to Cup match training just that last week, and I knew they regretted it, because once you did that, you could see that they, after about 4 circuits, hands are on their hips and they're busted, but they've waited till the last week to try to even show us that maybe we should be considering them. So yeah, you can have fitness related drills, just like anyone who's a decent coach in soccer obviously knows you do the same thing in football, where you can implement drills where you're getting people fit as you're doing intense training sessions. But Alan is also right that there's no substitute for match play. And so by having 3 trials last year, at least bowlers after 10 overs, they don't have to give the ball up. You can let them bowl 6 over spells, bring them back, give them 3 spells. And that's what Cup match is about, bowling long spells. But the key, the true key is the extras. I can remember seeing Albert Steve running all around Crystal Caves, South Shore Road, down by Brighton Hill, down that way. Doc Mendes running around Crystal Caves, Charlie Marsh, Noel Gibbons, and the Causeway were best friends, right? And it's about personal pride to get yourself fit. And I remember listening to Arnold Mendes talk about, and you see people like Dion, I'm sure Gennaro and Horseshoe Bay are good friends. If you're putting in the extras yourself, it gives you that mental belief. And I guess I'm giving a little bit away, but to believe that, and this is what the coach of the New York Knicks, who also was with the Lakers, Pat Riley, in his book, he talks about going into a match knowing there's no way the other team can match you fitness-wise. And that's, while he didn't have such a great team at the Knicks, Patrick Ewing and et cetera, but he knew that fitness made a huge difference. And it does make a big difference. But I think a lot of the players need to realize the importance of putting in the extras, meaning finding a gym, working out in a gym. And we did have a 2-hour post-mortem exactly 1 week after Cup match. And that was one of the key factors that was spoken about, is off-season, when to start training, and having a personalized fitness training session. And you hear the Indian national coach talking about that also, how we need to get our players fitter. Yeah. But bear in mind, you know what's the hardest thing, Earl? Is that some of these guys have been working 9 to 5, and then they're coming to training. And that's not making an excuse for them, because if they have the love of the game, they're going to push themselves. Because when you have 6,000 people watching you, 7,000 people watching you, you want to perform. And so you should be doing what it takes to get yourself ready.
We're going to take another commercial break. But before we go, I just want to say, because I listened to both of you, and I think, Dennis, this one of the things is that in Bermuda, a lot of the players, current players, want to perform on the day for the people, but don't want to work to perform on the day for the people. They're hoping that their talent alone comes on that day. It's the work you have to put in before that in order for that to work on a regular basis. And we saw that from more talented players who put in the work. More times than none, that actually worked in their favor. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Welcome back. Dennis?
Yeah, just to cap up the fitness part. In the mid-80s, I thought I was really fit until that same Norbert Big Toe Simons came to Somerset as a trainer. Norbert put us through our paces. Not even when it came to the calisthenics, the stretching, let us know the importance of stretching. Guys went from just putting their feet up to your chest. Now you're putting your feet over your head because the importance of the flexibility. And the difference to me between the two teams this year, and you saw it, was the athleticism. In the field, Somerset were very athletic. So if you're fit, that enables you to cut out fours, whereby you're cutting out fours, saving singles, stuff like that. It enables you to run harder between the wickets. So I think for St. George's to come closer to Somerset, the fitness levels have to be better. Because I would like to know the heat inside that bubble, like playing cup match, because if it's like 80 degrees, 80 plus degrees, they say it's 80 degrees today, but I would guess that it's like 100 degrees probably inside that bubble.
Closed in environment, yeah.
Yeah, the closed in environment. So you have to be at a very specific fitness level to counteract that, because I couldn't imagine. I mean, playing football, I played football at altitude, at whatever, but couldn't imagine being in that environment and not being fit, because you're going to break down.
Yeah.
You know, so
I want to ask a question. That, I mean, we're talking all about this fitness, and then probably because I wasn't a fitness nut, but no one would figure out that I wasn't fit out there on the field. My question is, are we placing so much emphasis on fitness and forgetting the fact that really, let's face it, the guy runs into Bill, you only got to concentrate for 3 seconds, his last 3 steps, runs in, throws the ball, you're concentrating, bang, hit the ball, call for your single, done. 3 seconds, 4 seconds max. You break that down for the duration of the game, you only can concentrate in a few minutes. Yes, fitness plays a part, or fatigue plays a part. I think it's a lot of technical flaws and basic cricket knowledge, situation awareness that's got cricket where it is in Bermuda in general, you know, because you could be super fit and can't hold a bat. So
what's
yes,
all
the
about
fitness part is important.
What's all about the higher level now? What's all about the higher level? Because this is something that the national coach has also recognized.
Yeah.
Right. So guys at the national level are also below par in relation to.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you know what I mean? So I'm just saying in general, right, that players need to concentrate, because if I'm fit, like Randall said, I don't have to worry about nothing. I come into that game confident, knowing that physically I'm ready and mentally I'm ready. So if I'm not fit, I'm going to break down mentally, and that's what happens to the players because they lose concentration.
Sure. Before I let it go to Randall, I do want to make a comment on Alan's comment. And if you watch and read Tiger Woods's book about his approach to the game, he says you only think about your next shot when you get to the ball. So you're only for a 4-hour period of playing golf, you're probably only on 20 minutes. But the fitness aspect with the technical aspect actually makes it that much more better, because you work on your fitness and then you work on your technical.
Right.
Your ability then takes over.
Yeah.
Randall, you want to address what Dennis has said?
Well, I agree a lot with what Dennis is talking about as far as going into a match feeling confident, because there's also the mental stamina that people are talking about, because as players get tired, they tend to make more mistakes. And or like Dennis is saying, and Alan was saying it too, you're running singles, but I notice that we don't tend to run as hard. And I'm talking about comparing Bermudian players to professionals, because obviously most of us watch a lot of cricket, and I sometimes wonder two things about when our players are watching professionals on TV. I mean, you've got India, Pakistan, England, West Indies all the time. Are they watching how hard these guys run between the wicket? Because if you're running a lot of 2s and 3s, you do have to be fit, because I watch some of our players, they're hitting the ball to the boundary and they're hoping it goes for 4, and then it stops before the boundary, and then they're only getting 1 because they have a bad habit of not running their runs that they should. Or after they've hit a couple of doubles, they're not so anxious to have to run a third double because of the fitness level, and you see them bent over, etc. I can remember Saturday, Alan and I made a joke about a player said, I think he might need an oxygen tank right now.
Yeah.
Because you can see, Dennis, that they're struggling. So your point is well taken. And hats off to people like Norbert Simons and those around Bermuda because we had a female who came down there, April Chowdhury, to put the players through their paces so that they could see. Because my thing is, if someone comes, let's say 2 months before cup match, 8 weeks, and put you through some paces, and you see you're struggling, as a player, you're supposed to get out on that golf course or the beach or whatever and do some extra work to get. But the mental stamina is a whole nother thing. The discipline to stay focused and do what you've got to do, and especially with batting, because, like I say, the minute you make that one mistake, and Alan, you're right. If they play across the line when they know they should be playing straight, and then they say, "Oh man, why did I do that?" And it used to. I often wonder when you see players getting out and they're shaking their head or slamming their bat against their head at themselves. But the thing is, you're the one that's made that decision. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's from mental fatigue, can come from physical fatigue, because obviously, and especially If you've been feeling out in this heat, like you said, Dennis, and it's 90 degrees plus, and you've been out there from 10 o'clock, let's say this county game, for instance, at St. David's, go into bed and it's 3 o'clock. And from 10 o'clock and you're in that heat, and you're opening batter number 1 or 2, like I said. And even if you're number 7 or 8 and you're out of shape, you're not going to want to run those things. And what happens? So often you see people who should have run a 2, they trot a 1, and then the other person gets out, rather than the natural momentum of a game flowing. But we've talked a lot about the physical fitness, and everyone's right. That is a key factor. But the other thing Alan Douglas talked about that I think is vitally important is at least put your best fielders in the right position, right? We should not be seeing certain people fielding in the covers or point where the ball's going to go to all the time. I noticed St. David's have been very good in the counties at fielding people. Now, some people may notice Justin Pitcher fielding in the covers, but the truth of the matter is he is one of the fittest and most agile players. And then he's a treat to watch, because when he comes to train, he's like a beast. And I remember him nearly hurting himself the week before Cup match last year. And I said, hey, take it easy. I mean, he's diving full length for a catch. Coaches hit the ball high, you're chasing it down. And he's diving full length, landing on his back and up. And I'm thinking, is this guy going to be able to play the next game? But that's how he trained. Dalwan Borden was like that. They wanted you to push him to the max. I remember from the national team, all the skipping that we used to do. I'm thinking of Nick Jones. I mean, he was another one, was a beast about getting people fit through. And people have their different methods. Some it's skipping, some it's running, but whatever it does, swimming, it's important.
Have another one, Dennis?
Yeah, so I'm looking at St. George's made 113 the first innings. I'm looking at my 2 openers now, because I think they can be talked about as 2 of the in the top 10 cup match wise, 2 best openers in the top 10. How important is your opening pair to your innings? Because I saw something in St. George's second innings, and I saw somebody in St. George's second innings who can be a good opener, and that's Jonte Smith. I saw something in him when he opened up in the second innings. So how crucial is that for you guys to get a opening pair that you can trust? Because looking at Frey and Chris Douglas, they have mastered working together at that level. So how important is it for you guys, or how do you feel, number one, about Chris Douglas and Terry Frey as openers? And then what do you think St. George's have to do? Because I enjoyed watching Treddy over the two innings. Now you have to sort out that other opening spot. So talk about Chris Douglas and what St. George's have to do in relation to their openers for 2023.
Well, let's face it, Somerset have a fantastic opening pair, and there's no doubt about it. And it's key to the foundation. And you know what, Dennis, the more you're speaking, you're making me reflect back on yesteryear when there were when St. George were in their heyday, and we had people like Arnold Mendes, who's open batted, even Noel Gibbons, myself, and Alan Richardson. It's key to have good openers. I mean, throughout the world, if you look at history and you see Greenwich and Haynes, and you could go on and on about that. Having great openers who can lay a foundation is critical. And it's interesting you should know Jonte, because one of the things that I wrestled with is the fact that I remember watching Jeff's son when he was breaking into cup match, and we played them after cup match, and he scored a beautiful 50. And I said, this guy can bet. He deserves his place. But then Jonte, thankfully, in the final trial, when one team was like, believe it or not, 6 for 27. He came in for the other team and he scored. He only scored 29, but he batted about an hour and 20 minutes and played. And he has a good technique. And he didn't get a chance, I guess, to show his true worth, obviously, because he got out the second day early, got out dark. But he does have the temperament to bat long. But the other thing that we haven't talked much about, and I'm interested to hear Alan Douglas's thoughts about this, is that, and I truly believe that some of our players struggle to transition from being 20 over players to not 50 over players to being cup match players. And you know why I say that? Somerset's league team should have beaten St. George's this year. And I know St. George's players might say, how can you say that on your coach at St. George's? We had 3 top batsmen who got dropped before they had scored 2 runs.
Whoa.
Tamiko Wilson drove a ball. He got dropped straight in the guy's hand. Rodney Trott, Freddie Gibbons, all got dropped. And guys are playing big shots early because it's T20. And if the ball's up in the slot, they're going to play the shot. But if you don't, keep it on the ground, you get up. So Alan, what are your thoughts about some, because there's very few players that we have who can bat long. OJ Pitcher to me is one. Rodney Trott usually is another. Yeah. But most of our players, they like T20 because it's about 6s and 4s and entertainment.
Exactly what they see on TV. They only watch the batsman getting the ball to the boundary.
Right.
Yeah, there are players that I think we have to nurture, that we know can build long innings. We have to protect them. And what I mean protect them is encourage them to play those types of matches and those types of innings, because the longer version, Connie Cup, 50 overs, cup match, it's required. And you still have to build an innings during 2020. I know I've got this young boy at Cleveland, right? And I think he's a fantastic little young batsman, Domain. And he's, cautious. He watches the ball go by. He plays forward, back. It's a bit slower pace. And I know a few years ago, people were listening to guys talk around the team. Oh, he done hit the ball. He done hit the ball. But you don't have to have everybody out there hitting the ball all over the place. You can still rotate the strike and get down the other end. He's one of those players I see that you can groom to be a person that's going to hold an end and still make your runs, without a whole lot of degree of risk. And so there are players out there that can play those types of innings. We have to encourage that and get away from thinking because it's 2020, you're going to hit everything out the park. Now, here's the problem. If Bermuda's going to make it, we're only going to make it in 2020. There's nowhere else, no other competition we're going to make it. 50 over, it's not going to happen. We're going to do it in 2020. That's it. So we do struggle with that. So we have to take the guy that can bat long, and then he will learn those little tricks of the trade to basically improve the strike rate. For example, look at Curly. It's not a big basher of the ball. Look at this guy Smith and Root. They're not all big bashers, but they're test match, 50 overs, and T20 players. Kane Williamson. So you can still be a batsman that can build an innings and take his time and still keep a good, healthy strike rate. And you just have to nurture those people and have them, encourage them to believe in themselves that you don't have to hit the big sixes. Because Curly took a long time before he started doing all of that. So yeah, you got to find them and nurture them and encourage them to be those types of players.
Yeah. One of the things those guys worked on, especially when they first came to the wicket, was crafting to get off the mark, keep rotating the strike, keep rotating it, and then they get to see the ball from the other end, and then they're in, and then they're able to build that and go for those shots, knowing what the bowlers are doing. Where I think the biggest problem in not just in Georgia but in Bermuda is that the minute the guy gets there, takes a strike, he's looking to put his front foot down the wicket and swing for the heels. The first ball he sees and he faces, and it's. But then you have to adjust to different variations of the game. Yeah. But are the players today mindful of the different version of the game? I mean, okay, so Wendell, when you guys were playing, we were playing at what, 60 overs at a time?
60 overs, yeah.
Which that's 120 for the day. So you knew you was out there all day. If you went into Connie, which all you guys played, it was an all day affair. Cup match was 2 long days of cricket. But you put yourself in that frame of mind to be there all day. Nowadays, guys, the mentality and the approach to sport in Bermuda is I just want to be there for the shortest period of time. Hopefully, I get either a goal or I get some runs, and then I want to go about my business. So the mindset of the approach to the game has to be the one that changes. So I mean, we're talking about how you guys broadcast the game. So in that retrospect, looking at that, what encouraging words can you give to the junior players now that would have probably been or would be listening to you in order to kind of set themselves and be patient? Because in county, especially Eastern County, where you're playing for quote unquote time, although there's overs, you're playing for time.
Yeah.
That first hour is crucial because the openers, you want to stay there for an hour.
Yeah.
And you know what, Earl? One of the things I was looking at for the county was how, because we play so much T20, most players want to always get the bat on the ball. One shot that we don't see much in local cricket is a player leaving the ball alone outside off stump. And then I looked at it. Rodney got snicked off. Ricardo Brangman got snicked off, caught in second slip. And that's because guys are not used to just letting the ball go, because when you're playing T20, you're trying to score off of almost every ball. But you're talking about cup match where you can bat 3 and 4 hours yourself if you get set. And you saw that innings of Gennaro Tucker. One of the things I'll never, ever forget was how he scored a century up Somerset when he was determined that he was going to get his 5th century and his 1st century up Somerset. He never hit one single six until after he scored his century, because he knew that if he, with his good defense, he could push around, and as great a batsman as he is, relatively speaking, from Bermudian standpoint, he was disciplined enough to know that if I don't play high risk shots, I will get a century today. And he was on 93 before. He didn't even give a chance, but it was a ball that was a half a chance only. And that's what I'm trying to say is our players, I would sort of encourage the youngsters to watch more cricket on TV, because even the best players struggle with that. You watch Joe Root, I think he's one of my favorite players. Alan, you mentioned him and Curly, my 2 favorite batsmen to watch. But even they sometimes will sneak off. But you'll notice that they're very good, though. But see, they play cricket every day, so they're realizing how sometimes they can leave a ball alone 1 inch outside the off stump because they know that the ball should only swing back a certain amount. But the other thing is situational awareness. Look at the county game, how Kyle Hutzel might have only scored 11 runs. But that partnership was worth
77 runs.
77, because Trey realized that he's in form. If he gets most of the strike and Kyle just gives him the single, that they can build a partnership. And that's something
awareness, understanding.
He talks about it all the time. Is being aware of, at this point in this game, the next half an hour or hour is going to be crucial if we don't lose a wicket. And when it looked like Bayless Bay might be out for 160, there they go and get 218. They've got the momentum behind them. As soon as they got a couple of quick wickets, boy, you could smell blood, because they knew it was a matter of time. But you have to realize in a cricket match, as a batsman and a bowler, that if we get that breakthrough, or if we can bat through this period, we can win this game.
Sure. Dennis, final question?
Okay, got 2 actually. Clay, love Clay to death as a coach. Loved him as a player. One of the things he talked about after the game in one of his interviews were about the DRS. What are you guys thoughts on that? Being introduce the cup match, or do we leave it as it is, leaving it up to the umpires' decision?
Okay, a couple of things I'm got. One, Bermuda only has a very few umpires. I think it's about 17 that are available. So the pickings are slim. So one, we need to encourage more people to get out there in the middle. I know I was instrumental in getting one person this year. Peter Philpott was instrumental in getting another person. My challenge is to the umpires. How much are you out there trying to get people coming to your club, to your bro team? Like, there's no way we should not have more umpires, right? And how many umpires are local persons? Our people don't want to go get paid. You can get paid $150 a day by being an umpire. So one, I want to encourage more people to be umpires. And that's why every time I'm commentating, you will hear me talk about the third umpire's role, fourth umpire's role, how much joy it is to be out there. Next week, we got a little camp around Cleveland. We got a little area where umpires will be there to talk about their trade. So it's important that we get more umpires. One. Two, DRS. Well, listen, we have the devil trying to get blazers for players, find money to put them up in hotels, and DRS is $60,000 a day.
Whoa.
That's $60,000 a day. It's not worth it.
It's impossible.
Listen, there's 2-day classic, and that's not even talking about bringing in the container load of equipment and housing that where you got to put it. So that $60,000 can do a lot for Somerset and a lot for St. George's. So don't worry about the DRSs and all that. Be nice. Yeah, it's a luxury. Yes. But listen, there's a thing called the spirit of the game. Umpire gives you a job, and you got to walk. Now, everybody knows I'm not a walker. But when I nick it and he gives it to me, I'm going. But, so it's a luxury to have, but we need to move away from the fact that thinking we're going to need that. Because is that going to save the cricket match? Is that going to make Somerset lose or St. George's win? That it's a good thing to have. But guys, it's a cost that we don't even bother trying to worry about. Now, can you have a substitute? Can you have little cameras on the side to get the run-outs and the stumpings? Yeah, possibly you can do that. But again, getting that equipment and getting the paying for that, it's a cost. Somerset might want, again, up Somerset, if you're going to have the DRS, Somerset can say, I want $40,000 for that. There are 4 cameras to do the run-outs and the stumpings. St. George, go down St. George's, they may say we want $30,000. Instead of saying collectively for the next couple of years, this is what we're going to have. So me personally, it'll be a luxury item. Good. The cost doesn't make sense. Get more umpires, have them be pressured to be better and get better trained and all the things like that.
I guess it's my turn. Alan brings up a very critical point, that the cost against the reward. Like, is it worth it to have the technology based on how much it's going to cost? And obviously, if you're talking about that sum of money, then, and clubs are struggling as it is just to make sure and have decent facilities, would the money be better spent elsewhere as far as upgrading bathrooms and having proper rollers, etc.? Obviously, yes. I guess what that came from was the realization that I guess when people are watching television and seeing how most of the time it helps to avoid having mistakes. And I say that because I want to be honest, and everyone makes a mistake. And so I have to constantly tell players, just like you drop a catch or bowl a wide ball or whatever, umpires can be vulnerable and make a mistake. Because to be honest, some of the decisions are split tight. Times I've watched TV, DRS, and they're showing a run out over and over, and you have to look just when that bail gets knocked off to where the batsman's bat is, and sometimes it's fractional. So I said this earlier, to expect an umpire with his naked eye to make a really tight decision, it's very difficult. Some of the LBW ones, I think what players can do now is they can see film of a match and then play it back. And I know for a fact guys were doing that this year because we had an LBW that St. George's thought was out and it wasn't given out. And of course the Somerset players, and that's why there were things that happened in this cup match that no one knows about, and I won't even mention it on this show. But and that has nothing to do with DRS. But the seriousness of the matter is that if a player does edge a ball, and I saw this happen in a league match, and it wasn't even one of our teams, where a player edged the ball. He knew he hit it, and the square leg umpire was the one who acknowledged it because the on umpire wasn't going to give the guy out. So the player was eventually given out because the square leg umpire nodded to the main guy and gave him out. The batsman came off the field upset that the square leg umpire had helped to make the decision. And to be honest, I didn't have a problem with that because if it's a thick edge, and sometimes, and let's face it, there's a lot of noise around cup match, whether it's the music or horns or whatever. It would just help to eradicate decisions. But even in Test cricket, how many times have we seen the umpire make a mistake? They take a review and he gave someone out, and then it's going to say no, it's not out. But like Alan said, to look at what the cost would be, I would say the money would be better spent somewhere else. But it would be nice if we could have it. Obviously, I would love to have it because it would. Sometimes you wonder when an umpire doesn't give someone out when he's plumb LBW, what stump was it missing? And that's just the reality, because even as commentators, sometimes we're looking at a replay and saying, wow. Yeah. But he just has that split second. And people could say, but was he bowling around the wicket? What was the angle of the ball? Right. Was the ball turning? Was it swinging? So it's all these different variables that people taken into consideration. I think what was the big thing about the Eastern County that was talked about is how long sometimes the umpires take to make a decision, and the spectators don't realize that they may be processing all the different things that I'm talking about before they give the person out.
Sure. Dennis, before I let you get to your last question, I got to ask this question. How surprised were you two when the umpire gave Taryn Frey out? He took 2 steps to his right and then gave him out LBW.
You saw that, right? Randall and I discussed that exactly. Like the umpire went over, came back. But that's the second time we've seen it this year.
It was one of the first times I've ever seen a player being given out by the own umpire, not for a run out, but away from the wicket.
Well, like I said, Wendell and I did discuss that, and the fact that we noticed the umpire moved across, but that's the second time I'm seeing it this year. And I'm just going to ask the question to an umpire when I see him, is that something you move to look for now? Is that a different angle you're looking at? I'm not used to that angle. Are you going across to see, did it pitch outside leg? Did it pitch in line? Are you looking for a mark? But it is different. Now, is it something they do now? Maybe, I don't know, maybe Wendell could shed light on it.
Yeah, he moved rather quick because they were looking like they were going to go for a single. So I thought he was moving and giving his decision of not out because they looked like they were going to go for a single. Right. But then to stop and give him out, I was kind of baffled because I'm like, okay, even if you're playing it back in your head, you pause for a second and then you make a decision. It's either going to be, no, I'm going to move to, to see if there's a run out, or I'm going to give him out. I just wonder what you guys' conversation was at that time.
It was the first time I've actually seen that, to be honest with you, because normally the umpires would move to the side to get in position. So if they take the cheeky run, they're side on to be able to see if the batsman gets in. And to give an LBW like that, that was a first for me, to be honest with you, seeing that. And so it
So Earl, you probably hit the nail on the head. The umpire was probably moving to get in position to see if it was going to be around. Now, that's any conclusion I could see.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was totally confused on the whole situation.
But it's one question.
I was trying to figure out if he was giving him a court or, I was like, wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because I think the ball did go to the slip fielder and the slip fielder caught it. But I think he was giving out LBW. I can't remember exactly where the ball went because I was so busy watching the umpire moving to the side.
The ball, I think the ball did hit the ground. It hit the ground because the coolie at the non-striker's end was calling for a single.
Right.
But Terrence stood there because he looked up at the umpire, and just as he started to take off, the umpire stopped and put his finger up. So yeah, I was totally confused in that. So yeah. But Dennis, your final question.
Yeah, to the guys, how instrumental was Gus Logie in Bayless Bay's success in wrestling the Eastern Counties, bringing the Eastern Counties back to Bayless Bay? How influential was his presence for this season?
Well, I would like to put it this way. I don't want to overshadow the fact that he did a marvelous job, but I want people to understand that he had 3 people that are there all the time for Bayless Bay who supported his goals, his plans. You got Irvin with Gus. They go way back to World Cup days. All right. So it's already a good combination there. Then you got Roderick Masters, who is working on being a coach for Bayless Bay eventually, who is such a great student of the game and a person I admire dearly, and we talk all the time about cricket and video analysis and stuff, right? And then you got Noel Gibbons, who is like the backroom consultant person. They had a fantastic team. Gus brought something that I know all these guys wanted all along. Gus was able to pull it together because of his background, his test cricket, his coach in Bermuda, and all of that. And the fact that he speaks with a different accent, and you're going to listen to him. His ice is colder. All right. So they're going to listen to him because he's different. And so it was fantastic. And he was very, very instrumental in making sure the structure, the process, things were done. Like Randall said before, they would get there early, right? There were certain things you didn't do, right, around the team or in the team. And this is some things I wanted to throw a question out there at the very end tonight and see how that reflects on Bermuda. But I talked to Ty Douglas some time ago, the other day after Cup match, and he talked about building in innings. Gus brought there a group of guys that build in innings in life. So building innings on the field is easy, meaning whether you're batting or bowling. So the organization was on point. It makes sense. What we have to take from that is try to get it throughout Bermuda. If we could get 4 or 5 clubs just like that, the organization chart, the way it should be, and everybody supporting, you got to remember, who's the president of the club?
Stephen
Atterbury.
Stephen Atterbury endorsed that, right? Again, he's a member of the team back in the day. So look at Ron and a group of guys that think, eat, drink, and sleep cricket and do it right way. That's what Logie bought. He had to support around him. It's a win. Easy.
I think that's an excellent question, Dennis. And to be honest, I concur that Gus Logie would have been very instrumental in the success of that, because when throughout the league, and I want people to know this, that yes, they were well drilled for county, being ready. When we arrived at 8:45, they were already in the midst of their warm-up. Some of St. David's players were still making their way to the ground at that time. And so automatically what we talked about earlier, Dennis, about how is this team going to beat me? when I'm so well prepared. And I can remember back in Ireland when Bermuda had to play the United States, and whoever, if we won, we would have went to the World Cup. I can remember Gus turning to me, looking at the United States warm-up and saying, how is that team going to beat us? No way, look at that warm-up. And that's what I'm saying. It gives you that mental lift knowing that you are so much better prepared than the other team. And the positive thing about having Gus is that a gentleman from Bayless Bay, who's one of the spectators, prior to County Cup said, having Gus Logie and coaching Bayless Bay should also be a benefit to Bermuda. And that's what Alan Douglas is talking about.
Yep.
But the thing that he also said is a Bermudian may say the same things, but are they going to get the same level of respect? You have to remember, you're talking about a test quality player who played in the days of Curtly Ambrose and Michael Holden and Clive Lloyd. So, and you notice, Alan, when we did the interview with the Bay skipper, Taryn Frey, that's one of the first things he mentioned is that you're talking about a world-renowned coach. And so he automatically has that respect. The thing I automatically noticed, Dennis, is for the entire game, those players sat together in that pavilion. They clapped for one another as they were making singles or running, just like you talked about, running hard, picking up good twos and making good shots. They were there for each other. And whether someone didn't score, they knew that they could contribute in some other way, because that's the beauty. That's the beauty of team sports. And as you would know, as a footballer, I watch defenders now who launch themselves in front of someone who's shooting a ball to block a goal. So if your team wins 1-0, that little act that you've done. Look at the boy Tavares. He got a dot, but he ended up getting one of the crucial wickets, Mackay Simmons. And so Gus talks a lot about the process. If you put the hard work in, you're going to be rewarded. And I noticed at the end of the game, they closed their door so no spectators could come in. And I thought to myself as I was leaving that ground, I bet you Gus is now giving them a post-match lecture about thank you for all that hard work. Because often as a coach, Dennis, and you would know this too, all of us watching, that coaches like to see their players rewarded when they've really put the effort into training. What you talked about earlier, Earl, putting in that extra work and getting the rewards. And so if we have more teams doing that, it's only going to be better for Bermuda cricket. So your question is a good one, but I would say 100% that he was very instrumental. And yes, Alex, right. You've got, a president who's going to support him. And let's hope that we have more of that throughout Bermuda, because it can only raise our total level of cricket.
Well, I want to thank both of you this evening for giving us your look into both cup match and county as commentators and as former players. It's always good to have the guy who was first out there doing it, and then now being able to bring it to people to have their view. And Dennis, I think we got that view tonight.
But one question I want to put out there, and you could take it later and another time, but I've been wrestling with this, with the fact that government, you can have a bit of marijuana and stuff. What is the effect? And Norbert, or you guys could tackle this and come on another day. What is the effect of smoking before a match, during match? How is that affecting the players, if it's affecting players? But some guys don't believe it's affecting them. I tend to think it's having a huge effect, but I'm no scientist. But I tend to think it has a huge effect. And I think that's something we need to tackle as coaches, administrators, and as players. Does it affect? But you guys could talk about that now.
I've often said this, is that if we're paying these players, especially in the Classic, to perform over the 2 days period, I honestly believe it's time that we make sure we have the clean athlete doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. I might get a lot of backlash, but what's the sense of me paying $25 if I can't get what I'm paying for?
That's a good debate. That's a debate for another time. That's a
Yes,
good
indeed.
I'm
So we
sitting
need
here
to-
thinking the same thing, Dennis. Alan, you're starting a whole new show. That's another 2 hour discussion.
we'll be here for another 5 hours.
That's a good
And I'm
debate.
pretty sure, and right away, yeah. Well, we see, can't get away from it.
Yep, this lists on your reaction.
And-
Yeah.
But the only thing I'm going to say is that we as coaches have to manage that 2-3 times a week. We need
Right.
help and need answers.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. We'll seriously have that conversation.
Without-